This is Slomo with an update on killing Slomo. Very important. I'm sorry. I apologize for being away from a lot's happened before Hillary, and we've got a lot of news. So let's get down to it. Well, what happened? They finally had gotten back on the road. This was about 2 days ago. Back on the old road, and Hillary was inside the Ironling, thundering along 75 miles an hour, trying to make up time to get out to San Diego to kill Slomo. Okay, what happened? Well, Modesta, inside the truck, was keeping an eye on Hillary. He could look out the back window and kind of see a little bit of what was going on back there. There was some glass that he could see through. He could see the shadowy form of Hillary as she thrashed about in the iron lung behind the truck. And he had noticed over a period of 10 or 15 minutes of observation, with his neck twisted around to look out the back window of the truck, that there had been no movement, and that Hillary had stopped thumping around in the back as she had been since they had left. So he yelled to Huma, who was driving the pickup truck, to slam the brakes on and come to an immediate stop, which they did beside the freeway, and almost brought another pickup truck, which was following too close, into collision. It went off the road, spun out of control, and went over and burst out in flames. As Hillary's entourage finally came to a slow stop next to the emergency lane, Modesta fumbled over Huma, who fell out of the truck onto her hands and knees, and skinned her hands and knees, and she suddenly felt very like she had been wronged by other types of people. But then she suppressed that feeling and got to her feet as Modesta went around and said, "Hillary, they were strong," and they found out Hillary was unresponsive. She was in a coma. And then he looked at some of the abrasions on the side of her face. On the side of her face and her leg and her body and arms. And he said, "Jesus Christ, she's got one of those flesh-eating diseases. We've got to get her to a hospital immediately." Well, they were in the middle of nowhere in Indiana. They'd made a wrong turn or two, and they were in the boondocks between Indiana and Kansas. They didn't have the foggiest idea. So they went thundering down the road, pulling Hillary in her stuporous, comatose state of mind as a big fumbling bag of groceries behind the truck. They finally got to a little town, and they saw that there was a Red Cross station, some sort of clinic for the Mexicans that were moving through there on their way to Canada and New York City to replace the whites who were no longer reproducing themselves for one reason or another. And then so they pulled up and Modesta jumped out of the truck, and Scooper ran around and tried to resuscitate Hillary by rubbing her ankles for some reason, as if he thought that would do something. Maybe he had read a book when he was younger, but I had never seen that technique. But Hillary was still in comatose. Modesta was banging on the door of the little cottage, which had a Red Cross on the door, in this forsaken little town that didn't even have a name. It didn't have a bank, it didn't have a store, it didn't have anything but a couple of houses and this little station for Mexicans passing through to get their health examinations and maybe a little toiletry or something else that they might need on their way into the greater part of the continent. But anyway, finally an old man came to the door and began to cuss behind the door, a lot of foul language I shall not repeat. It's too beautiful a day for that kind of thing. Bad words just don't fit this environment. But I can tell you a lot of them started with a D. As you might imagine, damn is that word. But that wasn't the only word. He even threw in a couple of F-sharp, "Hey doggy." And actually he didn't use the C word. He didn't use Trump's P word. But there were a lot of other words I can't recall. I think ass was one of them. But anyway, so he finally opened the door and said, "What the hell are you banging on my door for?" And Modesta said, "Don't you recognize me?" And the man said, "Oh, yes, I do. You're the coroner from Toledo," or something like that. Or something about a coroner who's coming by to do a case. And the Modesta got very angry and said, "No, I am the #1 man of the next president of the United States, my dear fellow, and we have immediate needs for your medical services." The man said, "Well, what is wrong?" He said, "Well, we've got we've got a lady who has fallen into a coma." And so the fat gentleman said, "Well, bring her in and we shall treat her." The next thing you know, they had Hillary spread on a table, a kitchen table, and she was still comatose. The doctor said, "Please give me some privacy because I must work alone. This is very concentrated surgery." And Modesta said, "I don't think I can do that. We lost our Secret Service people. They ran away because they were frightened of something coming from Hillary, something dangerous, a fume of some kind, or perhaps some sort of explosive or radioactive material." At this, the fat gentleman with questionable medical prowess jumped back and said, "She must be sampled with the Geiger counter. I will be right back." He goes into the next room. He comes back with this old machine. It would look like some sort of, I don't know, it could have been a vacuum cleaner of some kind. It was on wheels. There were a lot of wires and lights and things like that. And then he plugged one of them right into Hillary, right into the back of her head. It seemed like it went right into the skull. I don't know how he did it, but he did it so quickly we had no way of saying, "What are you doing? Do you think you should do that?" And so he proceeded. He turned on a couple of switches, and there the lights began to come on. Green, I remember, was flashing, and then a little smoke came out the back, and Hillary began to laugh, and then she began to shout, and she jumped up off the table and said, "Thank you, Lord, I'm ready to kill Slomo again." Well, everyone was quite impressed with the medical man, that we paid him $1,000. He said, "Oh, no need, no need. If only he'd have known, he could have gotten millions of dollars. He could have sapped the Clinton Foundation for perhaps even $1 billion. Poor man, he will continue to do his little petty life without knowing how close he came to greatness." However, an aside, the man had been a friend of Slomo's. Huh? Yes, he was one of the people that was a Slomo fan. He had been to Pacific Beach. He had met Slomo, and he had begun to admire Slomo's lifestyle. So from then on, he was watching Slomo on the internet. And he knew that Hillary wanted to kill Slomo.